Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. This is our unit on personality. I'm going to break this down for you um, in terms of personality because you looked at that PowerPoint and you were probably like, I don't understand any of this. It really kind of helps if you can explain it in in real basic terms. Which this PowerPoint I know is not. So, first of all, what we need to do is we need to understand what personality is. Personality is just basically a set of distinctive behaviors, characteristics, things that define you. You get it from your parents, you learn it from your mom and dad, you learn it from society. That's personality. Uh, Sigmund Freud always talked about personality as being defined by childhood experiences. So, for example, I have a certain type of personality that was shaped by the way that my mother was with me, the way that my dad was with me. One of the things I do not like is confrontation because of childhood experiences. Uh, the other thing I, the other thing I find in my life is that I'm a really moral person, and I learned that from my parents. I learned about how to, um, I learned how to behave. I learned honesty. I have a sense of justice. I learned about all sorts of things from my parents and from society in general. And that whole thing shapes your personality. Um, and so when you took sociology with me last semester, like we talked a lot about personality because social forces do shape you. This coronavirus is shaping us. It's giving us our childhood experiences in some cases, and we'll remember it. So, Freud always had three things that he talked about. He talked about the ego, he talked about the id, and he talked about the superego. When you're dealing with the id, that's your unconscious. That's your id is your basic needs. Your need for shelter, which everybody needs, your need for food, which everybody needs, and your need for transportation, which everybody needs. So those three things are basics that you need. You need food, you need shelter, you need transportation. Shelter, you get your safety, and that's a basic thing. Is everybody wants to feel safe. That's an unconscious desire. That's your id. When you were little kids and you felt threatened, where was the first place you went? You went to your parents. Your parents would protect you. It was an unconscious thing that you did. You just expected your parents to be there. And your parents would protect you from whatever was bothering you, whether it was a bad dream, whether it was a bully. That's your id. We have basic needs. Um, you know, and so that's where we're at with the id. So your ego, that's your unconscious, preconscious, and conscious. So break it down for you in that that's empathy. That is your you see somebody pushing a basket that's too heavy for them, and so you go over and you help them. That's your ego. You know, um, when you see somebody struggling, you think, oh, well, that person needs something. When you see somebody hungry, you feed them. That's your ego. You know, that's your empathy. And you learn that from your parents and you learn that from society in general. When you're talking about your super ego, that's your moral values. That's the uh, I know what's right and wrong. I know the difference between an acceptable sexual desire and an unacceptable sexual desire. That's what Freud would say. Uh, I know the difference between my selfish needs and thinking about others. That's the super ego. That's the right thing to do and you know the wrong thing to do. And you have the choice. And, that's what makes us human beings, and that's kind of what defines our personality. So moving on, when we talk about Carl Jung, and I'm making this PowerPoint, I'm kind of jumping around, but we need to talk about collective unconscious. Carl Jung was a guy in the 1930s who believed that people have a collective unconscious. Those are universal memories. Those are things that that everybody has an unconscious memory of, or has a concept of universally. The biggest thing I can think of is God. I mean, if you think about it, every culture, and I challenge you to find a culture that does not believe in some deity. Every culture that I have ever studied has a creation story. How did they get there? They all believe in a god or gods. That's that's a collective unconscious. They all believe in that. They also, for the most part, most cultures believe in archetypes. Let me explain it to you this way. An archetype is a symbol that represents for a culture. It could represent change. It could represent a story where there is a hero who saves their culture from a disaster or saves them from some kind of evil force. Okay, that's an archetype. So, for example, let's talk about Star Wars. Star Wars is an archetype. Think about Star Wars for a second. It's a modern myth. It's a modern story about good versus evil. And in our culture, throughout history, is riddled with stories about good versus evil. So, Star Wars, think about this. Luke Skywalker is the hero. Luke Skywalker is the innocent young man who has to fight evil. And he has to fight Darth Vader, his father. And at the end, what does Luke Skywalker do? Luke Skywalker kills his father. He kills the evil, and he saves everybody from the evil bad guy, right? Because, of course, you know that the Emperor was the one who was controlling everything, right? Well, he saves everybody. If you are religious and you read the Bible, Moses was a hero. What did Moses do? Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. He led them to the promised land. He delivered them from evil. Jesus was sent to deliver us from evil. So if you think about that in those terms, hero stories are everywhere. It's all over Hollywood. Superman is a hero story. X-Men is a modern hero story. Those are archetypes, and so when we talk about myths and good versus evil and all that stuff, that's really what we're talking about. Okay, so I think I've broken that down for you. Let's talk a little bit about other stuff that we're looking at. If you do the assignment for the myth, listen to what I said in the last part of this about the hero stories. You don't have to do just those myths on the paper. You could do any kind of hero story, any kind of archetype story. Star Wars is a good one. Moana. You could even go back and take it old school and go biblical with this. You are finding a hero story. What function does the myth serve? What did it give to the people? Read the bottom of the first page. Answer those questions. Other than that, you guys just need to keep turning in the work. And make sure that make sure you're turning in the work to me, okay? And make sure that you're checking that message board all the time because I'm going to start putting my work right on that message board. Okay? So, all right, kids. Okay. So, I miss you guys. I'm sorry I'm not going to get to see you for the rest of the year. If you are a junior, I'll see you as a senior in the hallways. Miss you guys. Have a good one and stay healthy, okay? Message me if you have any problems. Please message me if you have any issues. I'm sure you will. Okay, take care. Goodbye, and have a good night.